Is timekeeper here? Who's the timekeeper? Ah, yeah, yeah. No, we cannot hear you. We shall wait for our timekeeper for a minute. Sure. Yeah, we can continue. Okay. Is everyone ready? Gov opposition. Can the Prime Minister say something? Yeah. All right.
We're ready from the
Okay.
government side.
Opposition.
We are ready to.
Okay, good. Okay. Timekeeper. You can record the time, right? Even though you have a slight problem with your mic. Can you can you record the time? Okay, good. Okay. I shall now call upon the Prime Minister to give their speech. Here. You can start whenever.
Tess, am I audible?
Yep.
Okay, sure. Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good evening. Uh, I, as a Prime Minister, would like to start the debate by stating the motion, which says this House believes that developing nations should adopt a non-native language, as an example, English in Malaysia, French in Senegal, as the main language in education. Before I start presenting my points, I would like to define the motion for today's debate. So first of all, I would like to define the word developing nation. So what's a developing nation? Developing nation is a sovereign state with a less developed industrial base and a low human development index relative to other countries. Although this term may be controversial, but these developing countries, we do believe that are needed to strive in terms of education system in order to internationalize the country's name and to develop the country itself. So what does it mean by non-native languages? So non-native languages relating to a language that is not the first language acquired by a person in the country. As Malaysia is known for a multiracial country, we do understand that our native language, it consists Bahasa Melayu, the Chinese, Indian, and also the ones from Sabah and Sarawak. So the non-native language that we are trying to focus on here, if Malaysia, we would like to focus on the English language, and for other countries, any non-native language to be precise. Okay, so um, in terms of what kind of education system that we like to make the non-native language as the main language, we do believe that we want to focus on education systems such as the teaching educational system, the teachers, or any professional career path education course. As an example, medical course, engineering, or laws, to be as an example. Okay, as the status quo, we do understand that the recent generation has students and also fresh graduates that are not proficient in other languages, and therefore they have a hard time pursuing education or working opportunities outside of their own countries. We, as the government side, believe that this is actually bad and also at disadvantage because it limits the international business opportunities and also collaborations among for those who are actually deemed to be potential for this course. No man in an island or no country should be isolated from the rest of the world just because of a measly language barrier. First of all, the government side would like to claim that we do not disregard the glorification of learning our native language. However, we do believe that by adopting a non-native language as the main language for certain education system that I have just mentioned, the teaching education course or the professional career path educational course, is actually proficient and also important in terms of working opportunities and also other in terms of developing the country's name. So how do we, as the government side, believe that uh, we should adopt this non-native language as the main language in the state education systems? We do believe that we will start with the next generation, to be precise, the generation Alpha, uh, by turning classes with elective turning classes that used to be elective that provides non-native languages into a more comprehensive learning system. The fact that our country already have the existence of learning other language as instead of our native language like Bahasa Arab, English, and etc., which means that our country is actually open with the fact that these non-native languages can actually bring a lot of benefits for the students and also for the country itself. So we would like to make it and turn our education system with these non-native language as a more comprehensive learning system and turn it into a focused education system so that the students, especially starting from the primary years, can start to develop their mind and also develop their potential in terms of speaking in another language or a non-native language for the sake of their future. Okay. We do believe that adopting non-native language as the main education also open up new opportunities, especially as what I've just mentioned in the education and also the career path. Um, as an example, what are the other benefits if we allow adopting this non-native language as our main language in the education system is that for students who receive scholarships to go to overseas, they will have a bigger advantage in empowering their other language ability before starting their real education system at other people's country. This actually helps a lot of sides, a lot of parties, not just the schools or the scholarship that sends the students, but the student itself. Because we do see that nowadays, recent generation, they do have this ability in trying to be fluent in a non-native language, or in our case, in for Malaysia students, English itself. Not everyone has the opportunity to be fluent in English because it's either they are not used to the practice of English language in their daily lives, or their education system has not tried their best in order to make these students to be fully proficient in the stated language. So this is why we do believe that by adopting this non-native language as the main language in education system, will actually bring a lot of benefits in terms of new opportunities in the international business opportunities, or maybe collaborations, and in terms of choosing a better professional career path for the students themselves. This is why the government do believe that developing nations such as Malaysia, Senegal, or India should adopt a non-native language as the main language in the education system, as it benefit a lot of parties, not just for the student itself, but also for the country as a whole. With that, I would like to rest my case. Thank you very much.
I thank the Prime Minister for the speech. So now let's hear the speech coming from opposition leader. Here.
Am I am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, so I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, the members of the floor. So today we are here to debate for the topic of this house believe that developing nation should adopt a non-native language, English in Malaysia and French in Senegal, as the main language of education. All right, so before that, I would like to agree with the definitions given by the government side. And also, but what we as the opposition side, we are trying to debate about the native language that we are trying to implement in this debate today is Malay language instead of Chinese and also Indian, because we know that Malaysians usually use Malay language in their daily conversations. All right. So so today, for today's debate, we believe that we as the opposition side believe that we should actually utilize our mother language to the fullest, so that we should utilize our mother language as to the fullest as our stance. All right. So uh, with the government, we are also having our stakeholder, which is our nation itself, and also the students, who are our stakeholders. All right. So the burden of proof that we are going to give to the government is that why should we learn in other language when we have our own language that we can use and we are comfortable with? All right. So um, uh, so today, I will be stating one argument from our side, and my second speaker will be talking about how it can actually why we don't want to adapt a non-native language, because we want to promote the culture to the world, our language and culture to the world, and also to ensure the students fully understand the topic and discussion that we are trying to learn, that they are trying to learn. All right. So moving on to my first point, which is the main reason and the most important reason why we as the opposition side are trying to oppose to this motion, because we want to elevate the dignity of our native language. All right. So what we are trying to say with this is that we all know that Malaysia, most of the people in Malaysia are using Malay as their own language, right? So we want to keep that as a culture. All right, we don't want English to be a language that we are comfortable with. All right, so because that is why we want to elevate the dignity of our language. All right. So nowadays we know that the people don't the Malaysians don't even know. It's not that they don't even know, but they don't even use the language, the Malay language properly, with the correct grammar and what so on. All right. I think that it is such a shame on us, because we are Malaysians. We are known as um, as a as a country that uses Malay as our mother tongue, but suddenly we are using English instead. I think it is such a shame, because we should be proud of our mother language instead of using English. People nowadays are proud if they can speak in English rather than if they can speak fluently in Malay. All right. So it's like, I think it is very shameful, because I think that we should promote, we want to show to the world that we are proud of our own language instead of other people. We are actually borrowing other people's language by speaking in English. All right. So we can see examples such as Korea, Japan, and also China. They have been actually practicing this in their in their country, where the Japanese, they don't use other language other than Japan in their communication, and also only uses Japanese language when they are communicating internationally also. So that is why I want to rebut the points given by the Prime Minister, where it can actually when she said about how it can actually bring a lot of opportunities to the developing nations. And also it can actually and she mentioned about how they don't want any countries to not have international business because of language barrier. Okay, what I'm trying to say is that I think that this is not such a true sentence, and because we can see that Japan is a developed country. Japan has so many international businesses going around, and they are famous for always talking in Japanese and not talk in English, because they are not ashamed for not being able to talk in English. Although we will know that English is an international language, all right? They are proud to speak in Japanese. And I think that we as a Malaysian, and also I'm sorry, and also the Senegal should be using this, should take Japan and Korea as an example to elevate and to uphold their dignity, and be proud of their own language. All right. So with that, our government, I'm sorry, with that, we as the opposition side believe that we should utilize our mother language, and we should be proud of it and use it to the fullest. And we should show to other countries that we have our own language that we are proud of. With that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Very much. I shall now call upon Deputy Prime Minister to give a speech. Here, here.
Am I audible?
Yep.
Okay. So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Well, perhaps the opposition side forget that we're talking about developing country, while Japan is a developed country. There are main difference between it. And the reason, before I move to my points, let me emphasize what have my Prime Minister talk about. We talk about that we want to emphasize and adopt a non-native language in our main education, not in our main daily life. And the reason is because, as mentioned before, it's bring a lot of benefits in terms of job opportunity and in terms of, like, if you turn backwards, like if the other native from the other country know our language and came to Malaysia, it will be more convenient for them to talk with our native speaker. Is that also? And and moving on my rebuttal, and because before I move on my rebuttal, I want to stand more in what government stands in today. We stand that we want to use education system as non-native language. I'm sorry. We want to emphasize for students to we want to emphasize for students to learn non-native languages as the main language in education, because it helped them and so on. And because and moving on to my points, my first point is Malaysia as a developed country should be more as a developing country should be more internalize our country for more open gates. As we know, as a developing country, neither nor there is still like hoping or depends for more advanced country. And by learning languages, from their side, it will be easy for us to cooperate more in business, education, and so on. And by doing so, it will open. Moving on my next point, it will open more opportunity for students or employees to like speak more confidently. And and before that, I want and and I'm sorry. Next, we want to emphasize that we, as a government set, we focusing on learning non-native language in terms of education, in terms of teaching, in terms of teaching and professional professional course, which is we're not implied in all of it. We only specify in these two, which is
Could I please?
I'm sorry, I'm not taking it. And and like we understand that we want to by doing and we understand that by learning non-native languages, we are not neglecting our mother tongue. It just we want to be more globalized. That we want to be more globalized. So if so we can go we want to be more globalized, and so it will help us more in the future in terms of job
Could I
or
please?
no thank you. And before I rest my case, I want to emphasize that we from the government side, um, before I end my speech, I would like to emphasize that we from the government side would we believe that developing nations should adopt a non-native languages their as their main language in education in term of teaching and professional course. And and by doing so, we are not neglecting our mother tongue or not utilize our mother tongue. We just want to be more internationalized. We just want to be more globalized and so on. So before that, I rest my case.
Thank you for the speech, DPM. Now I shall invite DLO to the stage to give her speech. Here, here.
Hello, am I audible?
Yep.
Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good morning to good afternoon to fellow educators and also member of the floor. We as the opposition side oppose the motion, which is this house believe that developing nation should adopt a non-native language English in Malaysia, such as English in Malaysia, French in Senegal, as the main language of education, because I would like to restate our stance, which is the that we should fully utilize our mother tongue, which is for Malaysia it was Bahasa Malaysia, and also for for Senegal the language of the mother language itself. So first, before I recap some of the point from the our side, I would like to rebut some of the point from the government side. The first one is when she said that when she said that it refers to the generation that it can be fluent in English either because of lack of practice, and then it was it gave a bigger advantage to the to empower other people ability to, since they went to a big sites, a big economy later on. So first, I would like to state that the non-native language, which is English, is not being likely used to with all the people in the Malaysia itself. For example, let's say the indigenous people, which is they live in um, not in the city. They live in a
Countryside.
countrysides. They couldn't even, they don't even, maybe they learn in English, but they don't really practice English itself. And when they went to university or they went in a higher education, they can't even practice. They will struggle to understand the English. So it when we actually have Malay as a as a as a language that we use, it could actually help them to understand something better. I will elaborate that thing in my point later on. And then um, another thing is when she said, the deputy prime minister said that it could emphasize students to learn, to help them to understand the language and help them learn better in education itself. Oh, my question is, how does it's going to help the student to learn the English, to learn the English? Because like I said before, for the student that live in the terrestrial, not in the countryside area, they don't really emphasize, they don't really use the English itself. The education in English is not there, it's not in the school itself. They don't practice that thing. So how are they going to how are they going to how is that going to help them to understand this better? Moving on to my point. The first one is that it can actually ensure the student to have a fully understanding about the topic and also discussion when we actually use the Malay, for Malaysia, when we actually use our mother tongue, which is Malaysia itself. Because we all know that every single people were born in Malaysia, used to speak Malaysia. They are practiced. They are the stereotype of Malaysia itself. They learn to speak Malay from early age. So when they actually go from the kindergarten level and also from the primary level and also the high school, if they were practice to speak in Malay, why not in university? It will help them to have a better understanding in education itself, and it can help them to make our language better. It will help us to understand more better in this case. Another thing is that it can also promote the culture, the language, and also the culture to for Malaysia itself. Because, for example, let's say for international level students, when they actually learn in Malaysia, they can they can gain something in Malaysia culture itself. They can understand language. Why do we need to learn English if they can actually learn English in other country? Why do they need to learn in Malaysia? Because what will they get if they were in Malaysia and they can't even speak Malaysia? They've been practicing English all the time. Like, what's the function of they learning in Malaysia? Why they the exchange student itself, they couldn't get anything from Malaysia if they keep on, maybe they can get the culture, but they don't really understand why they will not using Malaysia itself. So the language of the Malaysia will not be known by the public, and also there's nothing to be proud about for Malaysia about the language itself. Also, let's say for example a Japanese student or other country student just make a exchange student. Exchange program is really famous and really well known in Malaysia itself. So when they actually exchange in Malaysia, when they were living in Malaysia, and they couldn't even learn what the language, I mean, they themselves in their country, they speak their own language. They don't really practicing English. And when they went to another country, they couldn't even get some inputs from Malaysia itself. They could get about the culture, but probably they won't get what the Malaysian talking itself. Also, we would like to minimize the language pollution that been happening among the Malaysia itself when we have the nationally. And then and then I would like to recap some of the points from the Prime Minister, which is that she said that it will elevate the dignity of our native language. From the opposition sides, that it will like to elevate the dignity of our native language, because people will more tend to use our own language. For example, like I said before, the exchange student itself. So with that, I would like to state back our stand, which is this we as the opposition side believe that oppose the motion, which is this house believe that developing nation should adopt a non-native language, which is for example Malay in Malaysia as the main language of the education. Betul. With that, I raise my case. Thank you.
Thank you, DLO.
Pardon me, but one laptop is lagging, so he will use my screen. Can?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Now I call upon Government Whip to give her speech. Here, here.
Can you hear my voice? Is it clear?
Yes.
Alright. So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good evening to everyone and the members of the floor. I am the third speaker from the government team, and I would like to reaffirm my team's stand, which is we stand with the motion. We agree with the motion and we support the motion. And as the third speaker, I will be rebutting everything that the opposition team has said and all the relevant points that they have given. And let me start by reaffirming what my Prime Minister has said. First, she said that we do not disregard the glorification of native language. We do believe that non-native language provides you wider opportunities in which the career path and in terms of developing country in general. And our native language, in which has been a main language in education, has proven that it hasn't done much in terms of developing our country and not providing proficient education base for fresh graduates, because they do struggle in English. And because we do understand that English itself is a global language, and it is such a shame on us that we used to be a very developing country during Malacca Sultanate era, but now we are considered as a developed country. And sorry, youth in Malaysia are also willing to learn the Korean language because of K-pop and K-dramas, and these things are like uh, uh, these things are something that we need to consider. And the leader of the opposition has said that Japan is a developing country. And this is a wrong fact, because Japan is already a developed country. The leader of the opposition, she gave examples of developed countries and not developing countries like the ones we are debating on. And I think the opposition team has failed to understand the real case of the debate and our motion for today. And newsflash, even Korea and Japan are learning Chinese, as they too acknowledge that there are a lot of advantages they can gain by being proficient in other language, and they are trying to establish connections with China and Taiwan instead of with other Europe countries or USA. And sorry, my deputy prime minister said that
um, learning learning this language can open more opportunity for students, for employees, uh, and the deputy leader of opposition said that non-native language is not relevant for countryside students. So this is why the government we focus on adopting the non-native language to the teachers as well. The university, in fact, we all know that most universities in Malaysia regards English uh, as regards English as the main language. And non-native language is also important in Malaysia. For example, now we as Malaysia, we are debating in English in this moment in order to sharpen our skills, our communication skills. Therefore, we need to obtain more practical ways to improve our non-native language. And there are some Malay communities that are willing to send their children to Chinese kindergarten or primary school to learn the Mandarin language. And as a Malaysian, we are proud that we have multi-language in our country. Um, And we believe that the students should learn and adopt this non-native language in the earlier years so that our status quo, where the recent generations have struggles in being proficient in English, would not happen again. So this is why we, the government, we support this motion and we want this to be implemented, and therefore, I would like to end my speech by saying that we, the government, we support this motion.
I thank the government whip for her speech. Now we shall hear the replies. No, sorry. Now we shall hear the government. Let me rephrase that. Now we shall hear from the opposition whip to give a speech. Here.
Am I audible? Am I audible now?
Yes, better.
Am I audible?
Hello? Yeah, you are.
I will. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, I beg to the educators, the members of the floor, the timekeepers, ladies and gentlemen. So today's motion is about the House believes that developing nations should adopt a non-native language as the main language of education, and we, as the opposition sides, are truly disagree with this motion. Align with our stance that we should fully utilize our native language in every aspect. I would like to rebut the point that have been given by the government side. So from the government side, they are questioning us why are we using the Japan as the example why when Japan is developed country, but we have to know that before Japan has been a developed country, they were once a developing countries, and they have been practicing using their own language in a long period of time. So it might not be it might not what we call help the developing country to be as developed as Japan in a short term, because uh, it takes time to be a developed country. So why we are choosing Japan as the example? Because uh, Japan that has been being a developed country is a proof that by using their own native language is actually help them to be as strong in economy and education as strong as the other European country. And the second speaker said that they want to be more globalized by using the non-native language in this developing country in Malaysia and the Senegal. So are you by are you saying that by using your by using your native language are not going to give you an opportunity? Like look at UKM, University Bahasa Malaysia. They use Malay language in their education and they still produce scholars. They still produce good students. They are still they have lots of achievement. Doesn't mean using our own language are making us left behind by the world. And so so are you ashamed of your native language because you want to neglect the our own native language in the education? So, and you say that you want to in your mechanism you say that
No,
you
I
want to start. Yes.
First of all, the government had never said that we are ashamed with our language. We've never disregarded the glorification of our native language, but we do believe that non-native language will actually help us in order to develop our country. So what is the opposition idea in order to help developing our country with the use of our native language? Thank you very much.
So it's already been told by our second speaker. I will recap it next. So, and if you are saying that native language are going to stop them and not to help them to be more globalized, so then just stop using your own language. Just speak in the other language in your daily life. So just let the Malay and the Senegalese language die. If you are saying that native language, non-native language are more helpful in to be more globalized. And next, she said about helpful for student. And how are you saying that by using non-native language are going to be more helpful for student? Uh, because our second speaker have said that by using native language are actually ensure the students fully understand the topic and understand, because we use our native language in learning. And let look at ourselves, like look at your friend. Are them fully understand what you are currently studying? Are they struggling when the exam is coming? Of course, yes, because we are currently learning in English. So not all of the students are fully understand about the topic, because we use other language. We use English in our education instead of Malay itself. So that is why we are saying that using native language is actually more helpful in education. And they said that in their mechanism, this education will be learned in English since primary. So if you are so that's mean that people will only learn Malay in Malay language subject. So this in the long run, and the worst case scenario that might happen, that people will only use English, and they will forget about their native language, which is Malay, because in school they are learning in English. They only learn Malay in the Malay language, and it will make the language itself die, because no one longer use the native language. And the third speaker have said that it's such a shame for not using uh, non-native language, and they are, and she gave an example about Malacca era. I would like to remind you that in the Malacca era, the international traders are using our old Malay language, and no one are using English at that time. Everyone from Arabic, from Arabs, from the China comes Malay and do their business by talking in old Malay language. So that's very contrary to your point. It's actually
the proof that using our native language are actually more helpful in the term of business and the term of globalize itself. So we would in our best case scenario it will make Malaysian are more people will look at Malaysia as a country that uh, success in our own language instead of using our other language. So it means that it shows that Malay language are as a high level as the other language. Before I end my speech, I would like to restate our stance again that we from the opposition side truly disagree with this motion because we want to fully utilize our native language in every aspect. With that, I raise my case. Thank you.
I thank the opposition whip for his speech. Now we shall now hear the reply speech coming from the government side. You may start whenever.
Excuse me. Is it the opposition or the government should give the reply speech first?
Wait, let me confirm that. Yeah, my bad. We'll start with opposition reply speech.
I'm not audible. Excuse me, am I audible?
Yes.
All right. So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, all right. So today we have been debating about the topic, about the motion, which is this House believe that developing nation should adapt a non-native language, English in Malaysia and French in Senegal, as the main language of education. All right. So before I recap some of the points given by our opposition side, I would like to state that sorry. Okay, so the best case scenario that is coming from us as the opposition side, if today's motion fall, is that we can actually produce more intellect, and in a way we can actually produce more intellect and individuals who can speak and use our native language as their language and in a way we can actually showcase our language to the other world. Okay, so it can actually um, uh, introduce our language to other people and also showcase our language and culture to other people. So let me give a simple example. We all know about examples like Korea and Korea. So basically, everyone know how. Not everyone know, but basically everyone knows simple words in Korea, because we know that Korea have been practicing to use their own language, and they are not ashamed to use their own language, and they use Korean all the time to speak, and it actually enhance people that do not understand Korea to actually to learn Korean, to understand what the people are talking about. They are willingly to learn Korean, to understand what the people that the intelligent people or the people successful people are talking about. All right. So with that, we as the developing countries, we should take that as an example, and as an example and a bench for us to follow them, to be like them, to be proud of our own language, to the point of people are willingly trying to learn our own language, to learn our own language, and speak our language. All right. So the worst case scenario that could happen, if today's motion is accepted, is that the native language, the usage of native language will decrease, and it can actually, the nation will lose their own identity. What I'm trying to say is that we know that the uses of English and French in Senegal and Malaysia are actually increasing because of how our country are actually doing it, like the government have said. I think we as the opposition side believe that we are actually looking in a way that how we want to conserve and preserve the country's language. All right, we want to use our own language, and we want to be proud of it. Okay. So let me give an example, such as Wales, a country. They have actually not used their own language anymore, and they use this English as their own language. I think it is such an humiliating fact, and it is such humiliating for them, and for the people to see that they are not actually using their own language. They are borrowing other people's language to use. All right. It's like they lose their own identity, and they are borrowing other people's identity to be theirs, but it's not even that. If it's not even theirs in the first place. All right. So we, the oppositions, have believed that the government side has actually failed to prove that the urgency for us to actually uphold today's motion. All right. So one thing that I do not understand from the government side is that how does learning in non-native language can actually help to understand better, right? How can it actually help the students to understand better? Do they really understand what they are learning? Because we know, because like they said about the alpha generation whatsoever, I believe that whatever it is, if you are born in Malaysia, and we are grew up in Malaysia, I believe that our native language would be Malay, and we would always be more comfortable to talk in Malay rather than in English. All right. So I think that we should have a look at other people, and also the whole nation's point of views, rather than only the successful and only the people who are fluent in English perspectives. All right. So I would like to recap the points given by our opposition side, which is that the first thing that we want, the first thing that we are trying to uphold by not adopting a non-native language is we want to elevate the dignity of our nation language. We also want to promote the language and culture to the whole world, our own culture to the whole world, and we also want to ensure that the student fully understand the topic and also the discussion that we are talking about. We want the student to to actually fully understand what they are learning, so that they can be a successful student. All right, like my second speaker has been talking about how it can actually they don't the people at the country, they don't even understand English, and they are forced to learn in English. I think it's such a disadvantageous for them. Is it they are wrong that they are born in countryside? No, they are born in Malaysia, so it is logic for them to learn in Malay, for them to learn in their own native language. I think it is very logical for us to see in that way. I think we, the opposition side, believe that we should utilize our mother tongue and use it for the fullest to our benefit. Um, with that, I believe that today's motion should fall. And with that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, opposition side, for the speech.
Excuse me, but can I ask a question?
Yes.
Uh, the reply speech for this one is 7 minutes, not 4.
Well, supposedly it's 4.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I invite the government side to give their reply speech.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day. I would like to start my reply speech by highlighting the fact that the government side would still stand with our stance, which we believe that this house believes that developing nation should adopt a non-native language as the main language in education. First of all, I would like to mention how critical the speeches given by each one of the opposition side. They haven't provided any examples on how the bad grammar usage in our native language could actually help our developing country, which is Malaysia. And also, they haven't given any examples or any alternatives on how with the usage of native language we could actually make our country into a more developed country than what we already are. All they did is criticize the efforts trying that are proposed by the government side, which we do see and we do believe that is very relevant for this case, because now we are debating on how our country or most developing countries should adopt non-native language in order to help develop their countries. And the examples given by the government side are all based on developed countries, which is also seen as unrelevant in this case. They fail to analyze that we should actually propose a way on how to help these developing countries in adapting which language in order to help them globalize, in order to help us or these developed countries to globalize the nation's name. Which is why I believe that the government side had tried their utter best, and we've also provided a very good alternative, because by adopting non-native language in our education system as the main language, we could actually open up a lot of job opportunities nationally and also globally wide. Because we do believe that with the current status quo that I've mentioned, and also what had been reaffirmed by my second and also third speaker, recent generation, especially fresh graduates, they are still not proficient in other languages, and we do believe that most job criteria nowadays requires the proficient usage of English or non-native language, to be exact, because we wanted to look further. We wanted to have a wider view in terms of our career path and such. So if we only focus on native languages, it doesn't really help us developing countries to actually widen our name in this matter. Moving on. Mm, the government always mentioned that we've never disregard the glorification of the usage of our native language. So we've never said that we are shameful with the usage of our native language. However, we acknowledge the fact that the usage of native language in most developing country is not helping the people or the civilians to develop in terms of career paths and education system, because nowadays native languages are having bad grammar usage, and the opposition side failed to propose as a way on how these bad grammar usage could actually help these developing countries. Which is that I, as the Prime Minister, do believe that our side of the debate has a lot of advantages in terms of helping these developing nations by adopting non-native language as the main language in education. So before I rest my case, I would like to reaffirm our stance and believe that it is best to choose our side of the government, which we believe that developing nations should adopt non-native language English in Malaysia, French in Senegal, or any other native non-native languages as well as the main language in education, because it does not bring advantages for the student itself or the individual admitted, but also for the country as a whole. Thank you very much.
I thank the government side for the reply speech.